Hi everyone, today I'm going to be sharing with you Eileen Hull's new releases. These are Chapter One releases from Eileen, and the first one is this Folio Journal. Now this is a fabulous die. It's a Big XL, which means that it will go through the standard size Big Shot. However, you need the extended cutting pads to do that because it's obviously quite long. And this cuts a folio style journal. I've cut one from grey board actually to show you. So this is how it would cut. You've got a couple of extra elements here as well. This is to box in once you've got your little flap that comes in. Actually, let me explain. Let me take a step back. I'm jumping ahead. You would cut it twice and then you would overlap the spine to create a folio style book which has these little flaps. Now this area here creates it's kind of a strip that you would attach either side here to sort of box this area in, so you could have this top and bottom as a proper sort of boxed in area to put things. So that's one way of using it. Now what I love about this die is because it's configured like this where you are overlapping, this means you can create a book as sort of narrow or as chunky as you like. You can either overlap all three like so, and you would just add some sort of red line tape here, stick this one on top, which is really easy to line up because of course you can just line up with this edge and then you can see that the holes are all open so that you know you've got it straight. So it's very simple to configure. So you can have it like so, or you can move this along and have 4 spines, or you can go up to 5. Equally, if you wanted to, you could just chop off 1 or 2 of these and also have it just 1 or 2 deep. So it's really flexible in terms of how big a book you want to create. So I really love that. The other thing that you've got flexibility over is these little flaps that come in, because you can chop these off if you want to. I've got one here actually, let me grab it. This is one I created. I first of all chopped off one of these areas of the spine so that it's just too wide. I wanted a smaller book. And then I cut off both of those flap areas. So I've got a really just straightforward little notebook here. And I've added 2 notebooks in with elastic. You just thread it through the holes, really simple, and then through the centre. Now these notebooks, I am in the UK and we've got a supermarket here called Morrison's, and they quite often sell these notebooks in packs of 3. They're actually A5 and then I just cut them down. Now I tend to buy them whenever I see them. I buy a few because having A5 and having them easy to cut means that I can customize them. So for previous die sets that Eileen's had, she had a travel journal which was sort of longer and thinner. Well, I could just chop them to fit that as well. So keep your eye out for any sort of cheap A5 notebooks because you can always just cut them down to fit. Now Eileen has got another couple of die sets while I'm talking about the notebooks and pages, because she has actually got a coordinating die that goes with this. And this is called Folio Page, Pocket and Flowers. But within here, you've got this die here, which enables you to create your own pages. So if you don't want to slide in notebooks, you can create your own pages, which I've done here. And what you would do is fold over your piece of card. And then you line up. This die does cut on all 4 sides. But if you line it up so that the edge of your fold lines up with this little notch here, so that it sort of overhangs, it's not going to cut that side. And that means you get a nice page to slide in. So you can create your own pages. Of course, if you ignore that notch area and just cut a panel, then it will fit nicely on the front. So if you wanted to create, you know, a nice panel for the front, then you could use that for that, which is why they've given you that option. Of using those tabs. So you can either cut it as a square or you can line that up with the fold. So that's really useful. You also get in this set a couple of pockets and some flowers, which are lovely to decorate the front. But the pockets are fabulous if you want to add some little pockets inside to tuck elements. So I would definitely recommend grabbing this die set if you are going for the big die. Now, you might have noticed on the front of this one, this beautiful mandala, and that is another of Eileen's new releases, and it's this die here. Now you can see it's a beautiful design. I've die cut this one here from some of the Sizzix texture roll. I cut it from the white roll, and then I've painted and put some gilding wax on that. So this works beautifully because it's sized obviously to fit perfectly on the front of the journal. So that's a great way to decorate. It would make a nice mask actually if you wanted to just cut this from card and then ink through it. So it would make a great element there. So that's that. Now I've got a couple more books that I've made to show you actually, because I've tried to sort of configure them all slightly differently to show the different ways. So we've looked at one where I've cut the flaps off. This one I have used it with just overlapping the 3. I've kept both of the flaps intact, and I've added my own pages in using that die that does it for you. I've added some little eyelets on both of these spines so that I've glued a button on the inside and threaded ribbon through so that I can tie this together to close it, which I think is quite nice. And I've used one of the Sizzix 3D embossing folders to create this lovely design on the front and back. And as you can see, these little flaps are really quite nice because once you close the book, it's all enclosed, which is quite nice. I haven't actually used the element that boxes these in yet on any of my samples. I forgot to do that, but that would be quite good, particularly if you want to put some little trinkets and things in here. So that's another one that I've made. And then I'll show you this one, which is my absolute favourite out of all the journals I made. This one here. Now for this one, I decided to overlap all 3. So I've got enough space for 3 little booklets inside. But I cut the front flap off so that the front just opens up. I've added a little pocket here. I've covered this completely with the Sizzix texture roll in white, and then what I've done is I've just put a bit of a wash over it with some oxide inks. And then for the front I have added, this is the Honeycomb Frenzy 3D embossing folder. I thought that was really nice, and I've just added a bit of gilding wax here and there. This floral die set is an older one from Sizzix. It's called Geo Floral Frames, one of my favourites, and I thought that would look really nice. So I've gone with a bit of a vintage sort of feel to this one really. So as I said, I've cut off that front flap, and then for the first notebook I've used one of those notebooks that I've cut down to size. Again, I've covered it with that same texture roll so that it all ties in. And then this was a happy accident actually, because I did it by accident. But when I covered this with the texture roll, I didn't realise, but I'd left a gap. I don't know if you can see that at the end. And that's worked out really well because I've threaded the elastic through there, which has saved me putting it down the centre spine. And of course, once this is in, it sits nice and flat because the elastic isn't in the centre of the book. So by accident, I've actually discovered a much better way of popping these notebooks in. So for the first one, I've got a notebook. And I've kept the flap inside for the back. And this is an older die set by Tim Holtz, this little pocket. And I've just added in some bits of ephemera that I had just to create a nice little element from that flap. And then on the inside, I've used one of the pockets from Eileen's die to tuck a few more things in. Then these notebooks I've created using the die. So I've used that die to fold over. This is texture roll actually that I've used. So these are really thick. I thought if I wanted to do any watercolouring or anything in here, these are really durable. And then I've used some Sizzix cardstock to create covers. So I've made 2 of those little notebooks and I've threaded those in the same with the elastic. And then finally, the other fabulous element you get on this die is this little tag thing here that enables you to add something to the spine. So I've used that. I've attached it just with a brad through that centre hole, and I've found an old earring, and I thought that would look really nice dangling from the spine there. So that just makes a really pretty element, and I've used gold texture roll for this rather than card, so that it's hopefully a bit more durable. And the whole thing has been sort of the colour I've stuck with, using the white texture roll with just a wash of oxides over it to give it this sort of subtle green and blue look. So this is my absolute favourite out of all the journals I've created. I'm really pleased with how this one came out. And I've put the name Evelyn in it because that was my nan's name. And as I was making this and doing the florals and just the fact that it had a bit of a sort of Victorian theme with all of these bits and bobs in it, it just reminded me of her. So I thought I'd put her name on the notebook just so, because it reminds me of her. And I'm going to keep this on my shelf in my craft studio. So I thought that would just be a nice thing to keep. If you want to see that journal from start to finish, how I actually made it, then check out my next video. I didn't include it here because I didn't want this video to be too long. I wanted to stick to just an overview of the dies here. But if you want to see how I made that journal in full, pop to my next video. And I hope you've enjoyed this overview of Eileen's new releases, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.